On today's episode of PJ and the Beard, we have a segment we like to call Ask the Expert. And the expert is our good friend Chris Dellaporta from Woodshed Guitar Works in beautiful downtown
Carlisle.
In the borough.
Yes.
And Jason's going to talk about why Chris is here tonight, other than for jockularities.
And soup.
So we get nothing done, right? So, this is about the third time?
Yep.
You've been over?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So we've had, what we've been doing is I'll drop by. Well, actually, last time we were here, we sent one with you.
Yes.
So we dropped off the Firefly guitar. Chris came over and gave some opinions on that. We dropped off the Harley Benton. Chris came over and gave opinions on that last. And then he took home with him this Tagima.
Tagima?
Woodstock Series 61. TW-61. Because we did this early on in the show.
Yeah.
One of our earlier episodes was this guitar. And that's probably been one of the most viewed episodes. And so that one was kind of focused on a specific genre and a specific idea. We wanted to get Chris to give like more of an all-around kind of idea. And so you have, when he takes them, what do you do to them?
Man, I'll go, like this one I restrung and set up. But basically go over, look at every aspect of it. Since we're going to review it and talk about it and give notes on all the different points of it, I'll look at all different points. We'll look at the tuners. We'll look at the fretwork. We look at the wood that makes up your fretboard, the fit and finish, electronics, everything from top to bottom, inside and out, as much as we can.
Good.
And I did just that.
Right. So
did you put the QC sticker on the back?
I did not. That was there.
You're not Inspector 12?
I called ahead. They put it under for me.
Very nice.
So it's pretty cool, that he takes the time. I mean, really does take the time, because they come back and you can tell by the way they play that he's looked at them. And no, we're not just using him for free setups. Not at all.
We wouldn't do that.
Disclaimer.
It's the soup.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to get you to look at them. So, do you want me to hand this to you?
Yeah, why not?
Let's pass the Tagima.
Pass the torch.
Where do you want to start? I think typically when you come over, we've started with fit and finish kind of thing.
I'd make my little scorecard here.
Yeah.
And,
on the smallest cue card ever.
Yes, exactly. And my chicken scratch right here that I try to figure out.
We're collecting those, actually.
Yes.
We have a whole stack of them now.
But usually I start with the fit and finish. And on this one, I liked it. I gave it like a 9.5 out of 10. And the only reason I didn't give it a 10 maybe exactly was, just little things here and there. And it could be just from the packaging, who knows? But like little marks in the finish and whatnot. It may have happened since you guys have had it for a while. We don't know.
It could.
But either way, it was, for the most part, it's the finish on the guitars is just fine. It looks good. The color's nice. I do like it. I like the way it matches with the tort, front and back, as a matter of fact. So.
And I like the little extra detail on the cover on the back.
On the back. Oh yeah. On the neck plate where they actually put the Woodstock series. Mm-hmm. Kind of nice, nice little touch for an inexpensive guitar to have something like that. Were the strap lock buttons on there when you got it?
No, I.
So you added those? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was the case or not. From there, we usually get into the fretwork. I gave this like a 7 out of 10. A couple of high frets here and there that I had to reseat. Some sharp fret ends on the edge of the fretboard. And with imported guitars, you're going to find that from time to time. I mean, they are coming across in a boat. They are sitting in a warehouse facility. They're waiting to get into somebody's hands. So all those things play factor in whether or not it's going to be semi-dried out or not. It does happen. So don't expect it to be perfect in that regard every time.
And I don't think we've looked at an inexpensive guitar yet that has had perfect fretwork done on it.
Yeah, it's kind of the name of the game.
Right.
It comes with the territory.
They have to sell a guitar and this would be selling, I think, in the $200 to $250 range, depending on where you look. I've seen them in local stores hanging for about $230, and on Reverb maybe $250,
Okay.
$260. So, yeah, I mean, in that range,
Yeah.
you're not going to... They have to save money somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it has frets. It does have frets. And that said, this one for the most part was pretty good. There's been one other one that was a little more trouble, I'll be honest with you. From there we'll move on to hardware. Definitely everything works pretty well. There was a couple of things that I thought could have been a little better. The tuners seemed to be a little falling short. I really, at first when I was setting it up, I was kind of struggling with keeping it in tune. We finally got it dialed in. These are split tuners, an old vintage style split tuners with the center hole. What I did see about that was that the hole's not very deep, so when you go to put the string in and sort of lock it into position, you kind of struggle with that at first. One of the strings was jumping out quite a bit until I got it dialed in, and now it's sitting there just fine. And once you got all that dialed in, it was they hold tune, they do their job. Saddle wise, they work pretty well. They're a little jangly. They're you get a little bit of a pinchy sound, if you can quite hear that. That sometimes you just can't seem to dial out. It's just hardware sometimes, and I'm gonna chalk this up to something like that. All of this stuff is replaceable, and you can get on the internet and find better quality stuff. If you want to spend the money after you spend the money on the guitar to upgrade that, then you're still gonna come out of this without having spent a ton of money. So again, another inexpensive guitar that you can customize to your own needs for not a lot of cash. And from there, we're gonna move on to electronics. P90s, they sound pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, in the clip here, you're going to see each one of us playing the guitar solo in different ways, so you can actually hear what these pickups actually sound like a little bit. Pat does a big open chord chimey thing. Jason gets into more of a bit of a rock kind of a mood with it, and I do the same thing. I kind of take that a little bit further as well. And they're very useful. P90s should be very useful for various types of music. And this, doesn't disappoint when it comes to that. Taper on the pot. Did you notice anything about the taper on the pot?
I've been able to use it live, and
pretty even for the most part. Not the highest quality stuff.
If it's not that, then I have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So if I'm not complaining about it,
right.
The taper on the pot is
it
probably
hasn't been
pretty
changed
good.
yet, so it's
and I have used it live, and because I'm running overdrive pedal on all the time and rolling the volume back to clean it up, and it does that. So I'm happy with that.
Then there's me. I'm like, is there anything else other than 10? I just turn it on.
Yeah. Where's 11?
Is
it all the way up?
Yeah. Typical 3-position selector switch for the neck and the bridge pickup, and in each position it's very usable. And then this 5-position varitone thumb dial that has a choke built into the circuit down here, which are just sort of predetermined, preset tonal variations. And you find the one you want, you just kind of click it into place and go. Yeah. Anything from wide open to a little bit lighter sounding, chimier sounding, to something a little more nasal sounding. Mm-hmm. Maybe sort of that half-cocked wah pedal sort of tone.
Yeah.
But not quite. It's close. But that's pretty cool. You can get a world of different tones out of that, and you can mix it up with your 3-position selector. One volume, one tone, and that's really all you need. And it gets the job done there. From there,
and you did mention the bridge. Did you mention the fact that you tightened that up and pulled that down a little bit?
Yeah. When I first took it home, it had quite a bit of float to it, so I brought it down into focus a little bit more. Pat's doing some chimey stuff in his demonstration with it. You messed with a little bit. You were kind of banging on it pretty good. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't usually use trem, so I just kind of left it be. But I think if you really bang on it, you're gonna knock it out of tune, probably a little bit, quite noticeably. But if you're just chiming on it, we didn't hear really anything major. Sounded pretty good, I thought.
You mentioned the electronics.
Yes.
Did you get to see inside the cavity any of the solder work and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Pretty clean.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe next time, if we're gonna go forward with stuff, I guess I'll take a couple snapshots and stuff like that so we can see it.
But the editor can just pop them up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He likes to assign me work
with the magic of the computer. But no, nothing in there that seemed suspect or seemed like, oh wow, they really fell short. No, all the solder joints are nice and tight. Everything works just fine.
And I wondered about that with the Switch. I don't know what it is about the Switch that...
It's a little... I do notice it's a little noisy as you're clicking into different positions.
Right. It's a little...
But if you're not shifting on the fly, you're not really going to notice it. If you're just going to find it before you play your song, you're going to be fine.
It's a nice tonal option, but sometimes I feel like... I think where I'm using it most of the time is like disengaged.
Okay.
So I would almost be happy
like
if we just
bypassing
it, but...
Yeah. And again,
but other people might really enjoy that.
Yeah, to each their own. Absolutely. There's lots to play with within these two aspects of the guitar. If now we're going to move into, let me see what's next on the list here. The bone nut. Pretty surprised that it actually came with a bone nut for such an inexpensive guitar. It needed a little finesse. Again, even though it's there, it still needed a little bit of finesse when I had it up on the bench. I didn't have to do much with it. It just seemed like maybe one or two of the slots were just a little bit too high.
So that's the second one came with bone nut, and the good news was that both of them were a little too high.
Yes.
So you could take out and not have to add in.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Once if you're dialing it in, your cost is going to be minimal. If you have to replace it, you're probably going to incur a little bit more money there out the pocket. That's like those are the highlights really. I think it's a pretty cool guitar. I like offset bodies. I'm kind of a Firebird guy. So anything kind of weird looking like that is always kind of cool, And if you're into the surfy thing, you can get it done. If you're into jazz, you can get it done with this guitar. If you're into rock, you can get it done with this guitar. It seems to cover all of the bases. It's really up to the buyer of the guitar to decide whether or not they want to upgrade any one particular aspect of it, tuners, hardware, or whatever, or pickups. But right out of the box, it works.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like about guitars like this is that, I think we've said this on the other shows, for a smaller amount of money, you can get into... Like, I want a Jazzmaster. Jazzmaster's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I want to spend...
Go out and buy
$1,000, $2,000 $2,000 on a Jazzmaster for as much as I would play it. And I didn't really know if I would like it.
Yes.
So this is a pretty easy entry into that world to see if it's something you enjoy, something you can play. So I kind of like that. Same with the juniors that we looked at.
Yeah.
Let's say easy entry in. Is this something I'm gonna like and gonna play? I admit, I really like this guitar. Several times, and I mean every time I use it I'm like, wow, especially like for some of the stuff we're doing, like the big open chord stuff, the kind of washed out ambient whatever type of
texture stuff.
Those pickups really cut through nice.
Absolutely.
So
and like the first Firebird I ever owned, I didn't like it very much. I knew I liked the shape. I knew I liked the way they looked. I'm a Johnny Winter fan. So that was a big aspect of that. Like Alan Collins from Leonard Skinner, he played one. So I always kind of noticed those things. And I got my first Firebird, and I didn't like it. It was a little too weird. It didn't hang the way a Les Paul hangs. It didn't do what a Les Paul does. You let go of it and it nosedives. And it wasn't until I got rid of that one and I got a second one that I finally learned how to use it and how to drive it, if you will. And I love it. So offsets are very cool. Everybody likes an offset for some reason. Everybody wants one of those in their pile of gear.
Mm-hmm. They've come. It seems like they've started to come back. In the last couple of years.
Yeah. It seems like you walk into a gig with an offset guitar and everybody's like, ooh,
What's he gonna do?
Yeah,
jazz rock.
What are you playing with? Because you can do anything. So
yeah,
but pretty cool. I've at first it kind of fought me a little bit, and I was kind of grumbly about it when I was working on it. And I will admit. Could
be the bah humbug Christmas spirit, or it
might be that.
Not today.
Right.
He might have sent me a text like,
It was like came from Ozzy Osbourne. It was all ampersands and exclamation points.
Sharon.
Which is funny because one of the first videos we did with this, I said we can't get it to stay in tune. The tuning issues.
Yeah.
And then I had it for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it was like in tune.
Kind of settled in.
It settled in. And
or
so
you figured out the learning curve of it.
I think it's the strings in that floating bridge just stretching. And
I set this up with a set of Ernie Ball 10 through 46, and it seemed to dial in pretty well. Mm-hmm. Intonation seems pretty good. It dialed in pretty nicely. Didn't do a whole lot with like really working on the trem, like raising action and whatnot. I just kind of dialed in off the radius of the saddle adjustments, and it seems fine. Now it's a Fender scale, so it's definitely not my world. I'm more of a Gibson scale player, so for a guy like me, I'd have to find my happy place with it. Who's not normally using a Fender scale, but regardless of that fact, I mean those are just preferences as players. This is certainly a worthy guitar for the money you're going to spend, and you can do a lot of things with it.
Right. And there's that weird, you said that earlier, I was thinking there's that weird, we had one guitar we picked up that you did an expert opinion on that was like $140. And kind of the goal was, is $140 make it playable? Like, I mean, can you get a playable guitar without putting more money into it? Because I'm not going to invest more money into it. So, into a $140 guitar, what point do you hit that guitar where, okay, now it might not be bad to put new tuners on it and stuff? Because I don't know if that makes sense, but I was thinking that way you were talking, like, all right, so this guitar costs $100 more than that guitar, but maybe that's worth the investment in a new set of $50 tuners or whatever they would cost. If that makes sense.
It's hard to know. But
yeah, exactly.
Like you said, it's player preference, right? And
absolutely.
Of all the things we followed, this is not necessarily quite the mod platform that other ones we've looked at are. I think a lot of people kind of keep this stock, but like you said, with a little bit better
short
tuner,
of a set
maybe
of
some
pickups
saddles,
and tuners,
you already got a bone nut. Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to do a whole lot. It's cool.
So with that, this is the third time Chris has been here, so thank you to Chris.
Yeah.
If you are local and haven't checked out Woodshed Guitar Works, you should do that. But I have a feeling he'll be back. We're trying to make him kind of regular on the show because it's fun. So with that, and we have a lot of guitars from the setup. Not really.
Review. We might even pay for a few of them.
A lot of guitars from the review. So with that, subscribe. Chris will be back. Stop over to Instagram and Facebook and check out us there. Also, check out Woodshed Guitar Works on Facebook and Instagram.
And on the web itself.
Yep, and on the internet. And so with that,
I'm PJ on behalf of the Beard, reminding you, no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear. Chris spontaneously gets to play out again. We do it to him every time.
I gotta get a pick. Hang on a second. By the way, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. Add that to the collection.
Yes.
Put it over here in the Smithsonian Archives. That's why I played it clean.
Nice.
All right.
it's hot out here.
It is. It's the lights. All right. On today's episode of... He's laughing.